We are in the middle of the South Atlantic, thousands of miles from anywhere. There's nobody aboard except our little family, and we're gonna try and catch as much fish as we can. Now the caveat, the trick here, is we're gonna do it without a rod, without a reel, without any fancy gear, simply a few $100s worth of bungee, rope, hooks, and lures. That's it. So let's see how much fish we can bring aboard. We're gonna show you we can catch small fish, really big fish, and have a lot of fun doing it. What we thought would be a trip of a lifetime has turned into life with no expiry date as of yet. After sailing around the world for the past 8 years, we're currently on the last leg of our first circumnavigation. Yes, that's confusing. First circumnavigation? How many are there? But if that wasn't enough of a challenge, we wanted to see if we could do it with 2 little stowaways. "2,000 miles ahead of us lays Brazil. 2,000 miles behind us lays South Africa." Earlier today we had a Marlin. We think it was a massive Marlin on our rod and reel.
That's not good. Can we get it up to the electric one? Inside, Willa, please.
And it almost took all of our line, almost took our reel and our rod.
Off?
Yeah, it's off.
Good.
That's a big fish. I think it was a big Marlin, or must be a Marlin.
We're going too fast for that rod.
Yeah, it's time to put out the handlines again and just straighten the hooks if they're that big. With sailing comes a unique perspective on fishing. Because when you're sailing, you have a sail up, you're going a certain speed, you can't slow down, you can't speed up that well because you're conserving diesel. So what I do is I use handlines. This is how we feed our family. This is how we supplement our freezers. It's how we get fish on the table efficiently and effectively without spending the money on a rod and reel. The equivalent rod and reel would cost 10 times the price of what a little rubber, some paracord, some heavy duty swivels, and a little bit of 300-pound test is. So we're gonna go over all of that today, and we're gonna show you some examples of how big some of the fish that we've caught. So there are advantages to every system. This is a conventional 50 wide traditional trolling setup. If you want to go after big marlin, big tuna, this is ideal because it has a steady drag. You have your drag lever right here, which is really nice, and you can let the fish take a lot of line. Now, we're not after those big fish. We're after putting fish and food on the table, and that's where the handline comes in. The rubber is the shock absorber. This is what does all the fighting and tiring out of the fish, and then the paracord is what gives it a bit more stretch. So we're not taking down the sails, we're just gonna keep riding. This is the bigger one. Oh, this is a really big one. The other advantage of a handline system is that you don't need, for example, a big gaff. Since our handline also comes with 300-pound test, we can simply yank that fish up into the cockpit onto deck and deal with it there instead of having to deal with, smaller braid or monofilament line on a reel and worrying about that breaking and having to use a big gaff. Check this out. Just pull it up and keep them if you want to keep them, but these lines indicate it's a skipjack, so we're gonna let it go. Once you start pulling the fish in, or even if you're moving really quickly, fish starts skiing. It's called skiing on top of the water, and it allows you to pull the fish in with very little resistance. Basically what happens is the fish is not able to swim underwater and create any tension on the line, and it's just a matter of pulling them in over the lifelines and into the cockpit. We're gonna rig up a couple lures here today because we've had really good success on the pink jet head, and we're running a handline right now off of starboard, and we're gonna run another handline off port. It is great to have a variety of lures available to us because the sea state changes, the boat speed changes, and with all of those, we need to have the lure popping out of the water every 1 to 3 seconds. That's kind of the general rule, is to have the lure pop out of the water about every 3 seconds to catch a little bit of air, give it some action, and create a trail of bubbles. When it's calm out, we can't go that much faster because we have limited diesel and we're literally using our sails to sail around the world. So I use a lure which like this. This is a cedar plug and it has a lot of action. The thing is though, it's not usually calm out, so those lures actually don't get a lot of use. So instead, we use something like this. This is a skirt with a jet head on the front. When you're out here fishing, you often end up having fish. A little kit like this with swivels and crimps and hooks is really important to have. People probably don't realize is how big and powerful these fish are. We've broken a lot of swivels over the years and I just keep upgrading and going bigger and bigger. This type of swivel right here is really nice. It doesn't have an opening closing clasp so it can't break. So this is a super strong swivel and it has a really nice attachment mechanism on the back end that has no moving parts. This is your lure. You want to have the hook sitting at the back end of the lure. So we're going to add a bead in between the end of the eye of the hook and the head. Alright, we have our jet head rigged with a hook. 300-pound line test, probably about 3 meters. And we're going to hook this all onto the hand line. So let's go do that now and then catch a fish. What we have here is the end of the hand line where it attaches to the boat. So we have a clip. It's going to attach to a cleat or something. We have the bungee, which is a really thick piece of rubber. That's going to do all the fighting for you. And then we have a line, which is basically going to attach to the bungee right there. Then we're going to have 1.5 to 2 times the length of the bungee until it attaches here, and then it continues on to the business end of the hand line. And that's about it. I got a hand line on both sides now. I have the rubber end connected down by the cleat, and then I have it leading up through to my Starlink mount, and this is simply so I can see it from the back of the boat. And it's on a kiteboarding leash, quick release, so it'll release itself and go straight to the cleat if there's a fish on. And then finally, a lot of people ask, how long should the hand line be? Or how long should you put the lure behind the boat? And a general rule of thumb is 1.5 to 3 boat lengths. So you can easily figure that out by looking up to the front of our boat and then looking back. So right now it's about 2 boat lengths. And that's about it. I mean, now you just wait and see and hope for some fish. So we've had some really big fish that have attached themselves to our hand line. Marlin is the most obvious one. And, you know, the question begs to be asked, doesn't a big fish cause this whole hand line setup to break? And the answer to that is quite the opposite, actually. You get a really clean release on a marlin because what a marlin ends up doing is straightening the hook. That is, if it's a 200-pound marlin, there's no way of stopping a 200-pound marlin. Now, that said, you will be able to pull in, you know, pretty big marlin. Marlin on, marlin on, marlin on. Wow, it really gets your heart pumping. We're not against keeping marlin, but they have to be able to use all the meat. There's a lot of marlin around here. Okay, let's go.
So what's cool with hooking up with hand lines is that you don't have to be so stressed. I mean, if it's a big fish, it'll straighten the hook and it'll be gone. If your rig is wrong, it will blow out the swivel or whatever it is that's undersized. But if everything's set up properly and the fish isn't too big, it'll just kind of hang out there. So you can get yourself organized. Ben's just pulling in the other hand line so it doesn't get caught up in that when it starts freaking out. And then we can pull it in. But yeah, sometimes they get off, but most of the time they're still hanging out there. It's kind of crazy, right?
Yeah, gosh.
I think he's a nice size if you're going to keep one. Do you want to keep one?
Yeah, I need to go.
smokes, guys. Isn't that beautiful? That's a big fish, eh? Whoa. What are we gonna do, Dad? Oh, he's got a remora on him. See the baby fish attached to him?
Okay. See you later. Now that's, if you ever wonder how big of a fish you can catch on a handline, that's it. He's a bit too much meat again for us. But wow, strong fish. He'll live another day. And if you want to know my secret, 2 hooks, one 90 degrees to the other. So one is going this way and one is coming towards me. So it doesn't matter how they hit it, it can't come out the side of the mouth because it's gonna get stuck on one way or the other. 2 seconds later, no, maybe 30 seconds, we either have a sailfish on or another marlin. The thing is, the more fish you have on the handline, the more you realize you can take your time. It's actually good to take your time. It tires the fish out. It's less of a fight for you when you get it close into the boat. Always tether in if you ever get caught on a handline. The fish will pull you in the water, so you want to be tethered to the boat. Sailfish, you can tell it's sailfish by that. So that's pretty cool. But we'll let this guy go. It has to be said, safety needs to come first. When you're using hand lines, always wear gloves, especially when you don't know how big the fish is. One thing you'll notice here as I'm pulling in this fish is that I'm never wrapping the line all the way around my hand. I'm doing a half wrap, which I can easily let go if the fish were able to take a run. The other thing you'll notice here is that the safest way for bunching up the line is putting it into a stripping bucket as you pull it in. You never want to get tangled with your feet or your ankles with this line.
Fish line! Oh, it's a nice size. Alright, I'll get you nice.
On the back. And then we can take the skin, peel it right off. Say thank you, fish. Thank you.
Woohoo! What is it?
I think it's a bunch of little peels.
You need a bucket.
Right, you need a bucket. Sure.
That guy's really little. Maybe let the little guy go. What do you think?
Yeah. High five.
We were just talking about tuna. I was just showing Ben the picture from the South Pacific. We'll show you that one. That was a bit nice tuna.
They're a little bit small, but there's a bit of meat on there. There's some fish taco stuff there.
And you know what? The mercury levels will be low.
Yeah.
For the kids.
Yeah.
And I was just saying no fish today. And here we are. Fish. Every day. Every day.
I think handline fishing is the go-to method for sailboats, for sailors and sailboats. It is actually the go-to method for fishing from a ski boat or a jet boat. And I think it's the go-to method for getting fish onto the table if you're looking to provide food for your family. I will be putting these hand lines up for sale. So if you're interested, I'm going to have a pre-order list down below. They're going to be professionally made with nice paracord, nice finishes, and they will come fully set up with a yo-yo wheel to coil it up on. Check out the link down below. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Handlines are the way to go. Give it a try. It's a lot of fun, really. It's hilarious when you actually are able to bring in a fish with your hands. You know, it's a real back to basics kind of way of fishing, and it costs 1/10 of the price of the conventional rod and reel. And there's no maintenance. So, I don't know. I think it's a win-win all around. Anyways, I think I got a fish on, so I gotta go. See you later, guys.